This is a guide on how to set up your camera housing for the first time before using it underwater. This is Sony a7R3 camera, and today we're going to take a look at the camera housing for this camera. This camera housing is also compatible with the Sony a7 III model. Let's open up the package and see what's inside. We have a general reminder, which we'll go back to later. We have a spare O-ring, silicone grease. I believe this is a wrist strap and a neck strap. Instruction manual and the silica packets. Let's take out the housing itself. Okay, so this is the camera housing in black for a7 III, a7R3, but we have only a7R3 camera, so we'll test this one in here. First, what you want to do when you receive the package is to make sure to test the camera fitment and functionality. This zoom gear for 2870 lens, but we're using another lens, so we're not going to be needing this. This is a cable for connecting the strobes. So this cable goes on to top of the hot shoe camera, and that's how you can fire the outside strobes. But if you're not using the strobes, then you can disconnect it and tuck in the cable away. So let's try to fit the camera inside and see. Don't forget to remove your lens cap before inserting the camera. Nothing special, we just put the camera inside, close the housing and turn the camera on. In general, when you receive the camera housing, make sure to place your camera inside, test all the functions before you even proceed to preparing the housing for the first time use in the water for testing of it for waterproofness. After you have done the testing of all the buttons, we then can proceed to applying silicone to all the areas where needed, to all of the O-rings. So before we do that, we're gonna take out the camera and set it aside. Then we're gonna take out the little pick from this spare O-ring bag to use it to take the O-ring out. This is the spare O-ring for this part. This is called the main O-ring, and inside you've got a secondary O-ring. So the spare one is for the main O-ring. What you're gonna do is take this out, place it somewhere nice. Then we can take a tissue and clean the groove where the O-ring sits. Then we'll take a silicone grease that came with the package and apply it to the O-ring. All you need is about this much. Then we take the O-ring and we go through entire O-ring like this. So, but try not to squeeze and stretch the O-ring. Let it go freely. A few times, few laps, then it's all sticky. Then we place it back. Make sure to check the O-ring so it's all even and not twisted in anywhere on the corners or on the straight. Then we proceed to applying the silicone grease and checking for silicone on this part and this part. This is the pistol grip plug, so in case if you purchased a bundle of an accessory as a pistol grip, you would need to remove it and then attach the pistol grip. You might need a coin to do that. A small O-ring. We're repeating the same steps as the main and secondary O-ring. We apply just a little bit of silicone. Then we can tighten it. Next one is the vacuum pump plug. So we also take it out. There's actually two O-rings. One O-ring is on the plug itself and another one is here. Be very careful with this one, because sometimes if you put too much silicone grease on it, it will stick to the plug. So be careful and pay attention to that. Small amount of silicone grease. Then we put it back. Same goes for this O-ring. Just a tiny bit and spread it all around the plug itself. Then you can use your fingers to make it more evenly spread. If you have excess of silicone grease somewhere sticking out there or here, it's nothing to worry about because it will wash away by water. Then we proceed to the port O-ring. Depending on whether you purchase this camera housing with a standard port or in a bundle with a dome port, you still need to repeat the same step. So we need to unscrew the locking pin that is holding the port. So this is the port. We also remove the O-ring. Then we're gonna clean the port groove where the O-ring sits. Repeat the same step as the main O-ring. Also clean it, pulling it lightly as not to stretch it. Then we apply a bit of silicone grease to our index finger and put it between index and thumb and let the O-ring go through the fingers a few times. Then we can place it back. Okay, we're gonna attach the port back. You see the dot here, you see the dot on the port. So we align those two dots. Push the port, twist. Okay, now we can put the locking piece back inside and secure it. Then we can place this one back. I took this out so it's easier to access with a screwdriver. In case you purchased the vacuum pump accessory, you may test it, the housing a bit with it before proceeding to the water test. To do that, we remove the plug, then we take a vacuum pump, this is called the vacuum pump valve. We remove the lid off it and attach it to the housing. Tight enough, but not too tight. We press this button and then the LED color turns red. Then we start pumping with this hand pump. Depending on the model of camera housing, or if you have accessories such as the dome ports, the number of pumps will be different. So if there's a dome port, the volume of it is going to be greater, so you'll have to do more. But typically for camera housing is about 100, but again depends on the volume of the camera housing. We are pumping until we start seeing the light turning green. That will mean there's a vacuum inside the housing, and then after it's green, around 5 to 10 pumps more to make sure it stays the same. Then we place the cap, very important to place the cap. Tighten it. Then we can leave the camera housing for 15 minutes, maybe half hour, to let it run its course to make sure there's no leaks of any kind. However, even after this test, we still suggest you do the water test as a part of necessary procedure. Okay, now we can proceed to the water test without camera as mentioned in this leaflet that is included in the package. However, of course, you need to remove the VPS valve before doing the test. So the cap is removed. Now we can press the button to release the pressure and remove the valve itself. All of the steps are mentioned in the general reminder, so we highly suggest to follow according to these steps. Make sure there's no debris or any dust or any hair. Then we can place the cap back on, the plug, and proceed to testing in the water without camera. Submerge the camera housing fully underwater and start pressing each button individually. This will allow the excess air that's being trapped under the button to come out, and also ensure that each O-ring in every button is working properly. Then what you want to do is to place your camera housing at the bottom of the tank and leave it for about 30 minutes. Once this test is complete, you can safely use it out at sea.